Hello and welcome. I'm Peter and we're here to make progress, not perfection, but on that way to progress we find ourselves jumping over one hurdle only to find ourselves in front of another one. So today I'm here to give you the top 5 mistakes that are made in the red ranks. Now, one thing I noticed immediately with players in the red ranks is that the majority of them have decent combos, understand on a basic level what their characters are good at, and also try on occasion to block and whiff punish, which is all great stuff. However, on the whole, there are still skills that need to be more refined. So today, I'm here to give you some new mistakes that I haven't covered yet in my top 5 mistakes videos. Let's go. Counting down from number 5, we have players being severely handicapped when they are forced to play on their weak side. Typically speaking, most Tekken players prefer to be either on 1P side or 2P side. In 2D games, players can swap sides quite frequently because of how prevalent the jumping mechanics allow for it, and as a result, players naturally become more accustomed to playing on, well, both sides. However, in 3D games, players generally don't swap sides very often, unless it's due to something like a throw, slide attack, some other unique attack, or off of a weird wall angle off of a combo. Because of this, most Tekken players have a very heavy preference on which side they like to play on. And it becomes obvious when a player is forced to play on their opposite side. You see players get swapped to their weak side and immediately then start to play differently. They either start dropping their bread and butter combos, or you see the players start to play hyper aggressive or potentially hyper defensively, or forget their game plan altogether, and well, you get the idea. Players playing differently. Overall, players just need to realize that Tekken is a game that requires practice on both player 1 and player 2 side, because you never know which side you could end up on, and if you play offline, it's a flip of a coin. And you never also want to be sitting on your weak side and thinking, shit, I can't play on this side. And before I end this, and before I forget, big shout outs to Illuminator. He was the only person so far to ever submit games since I started this series that has showed decent mastery on P1 and P2 side. Good shit, Illuminator. Good shit, man. Number 4, we have players having very rigid movement. From all the matches that I've watched, it appears that red rank players are all over the place when it comes to movement. Some players are quite decent when it comes to movement, other players are stiff with regards to their movement, and yet some of you guys, sorry to say, have virtually no movement at all. The only form of movement from some of you guys is from a single backdash or forward advancing attack, and that's it. So let me dive a little deeper into this topic because it's really important. Prior to the red ranks, I don't think it's all that important to learn how to Korean backdash, since there are more fundamental topics to cover at that point. For example, how to use key moves, learning to block punish, learning to perform staple bread and butter combos, learning not to whiff big attacks, etc, etc. Those are far more important than Korean backdashing. Because of how important those topics are, I think that before the red ranks, it's okay to kind of backdash, sidestep, and utilize this kind of movement. However, I think it's absolutely crucial to learn how to properly Korean backdash by the time you hit red ranks, because it is the most efficient, fastest, and safest way to create space between yourself and the opponent. And the faster you can create space between yourself and the opponent, the easier it is for you to be able to start whiff punishing the opponent, as well as getting out of range of some dangerous attacks. Also on the topic of stiff movement, some of you guys who are in the red ranks are barely moving at all. Just for this example, I'm going to pick on Keiko's, but know that many of you guys who are watching this and who are out there are in the same boat as him, so it's not just him. Here, after Keiko's uses Paul's back 3 and it whiffs, there is literally 2 full seconds of nothing going on except holding back to block. We could have done a number of things in this situation. We could have sidewalked to the left to get away from the wall that's on our right. This is probably the best option in my opinion. We could have done a single backdash to create a little more space if we thought the opponent was going to be doing a forward advancing attack to create a whiff. We could have done a combination of the two. We could have done a small sidewalk to the left and then done a backdash to get a little bit better stage positioning to also bait out something. All of these are viable options that we could have gone for, but what do we do instead? We sat there and held block and did nothing else. I mean, look at what the opponent's doing. Look at what the opponent is doing. While our opponent also has stiff movement, he at least realizes movement here is important. As soon as he realizes that Keikos is just holding back to block and doing nothing else, the opponent's like, oh shit, I need to get away from this wall. So what does he do? He does a little sidewalk, block, and then a sidewalk, and then block. And after this, a little exchange of attacks. Look at what we are. Look at where we are. Our back is now against the wall and our opponent is pressuring us, all because we decided not to get away from this wall and just hold block. So I hope this little 2-second example from Keikos helps shed some light to your own gameplay, guys. And just like I said, I'm not picking on Keikos here, but many of you guys who submitted games are in the same boat as him. He's not alone. Number 3, we have players not being able to break throws on reaction. Now, I know a lot of players struggle with this, and I myself struggle with this as well. I'm not as consistent with breaking throws as I would like to be, so don't feel bad. Peter's with you guys on this one. I'm with you guys. Personally, I think it's a matter of discipline, and we need to devote ourselves to practicing more on throw breaks. We all tell ourselves, man, I really need to work on this, and then you know what, 2 months goes by, no work has been done on it whatsoever, and we're just in the lab doing combos. So I'm going to show you guys today that many of us are losing more games than we possibly think we are because of not being able to throw break on reaction. First up, we have Cringe Weepster, our lucky Chloe player. At the start of the round, he gets thrown immediately. We do tech roll this throw so we don't eat the full brunt of a giant swing. And, well, I want you to remember this damage we took because it's going to come in handy later. Now, fast forwarding through the match and continuing to fast forward until we get to around here, where we get thrown again. This time, a Shining Wizard. Once again, remember the damage. Now we get to this point in the match where we mess up our Rage Art combo and make a wrong read, resulting in us getting hit by AK's extension on down 3+4. Assuming that nothing else in the match changed except us being able to break the 2 throws, we would actually have, through the power of editing, this much health. This is a huge difference and would actually have given us the ability to properly close out this game. We could have done a low poke and still ate a low parry combo, or we could have just done a chip low or a mid or something and have an exchange and not lose the game. Now, let's take a look at another example. This one is a bit more obvious. Illuminator, our well-established and esteemed Fang player, is playing against Marduk. He's doing pretty well here for the most part and is roughly about equal in life with the opponent. But then, whoops, oh no, the Marduk goes for a throw and this one hurts because he gets a combo off of it, and that's gonna close out the game. So all in all, the ability to break throws is one that can definitely be practiced. So I urge all of you guys to definitely take the time to go through and hone your skills on throw breaking. Just go into practice mode, choose Paul, Jin, Devil Jin, Marduk, King, Dragonov, or someone else in the game that has a complete throw game, and set the computer to do all the various throws and see how many you can break. I will eventually do a more in-depth video on practice routines on how to get this down more on throw breaks, but for now, just practice this the best you can. It will always be useful. Trust me. Mistake number 2 is not being able to deal with common strings. Now, as many of you guys know, there are a lot of strings in Tekken. Some of them are really good to use depending on the situation because of the mind games they offer, while other ones, not so great. And while many of you guys have been on the receiving end of the string, so to speak, and not sure if a string is good or not, I'm here to let you know that most of the strings you guys have encountered are garbage, and you should probably figure out how to deal with it. However, it will require some research on your guys' part on learning how to deal with them. Strings like Nina's up forward 4-3-4, down 3-4-3, down forward 3-1, or Brian's sidestep 2-3, quarter circle back 2-4, down 3-2, Paul's down forward 1-1-2, while standing 3-2, or Asuka's back 3-4, or forward down 4. Those are a lot of the strings that I ended up seeing that got repeated over and over in the games, and players just didn't figure out how to deal with it. And the list of course goes on and on. Now, there's no particular good way for me to just tell each and every one of you which strings you guys struggle with, because everyone struggles with different strings, but I urge you all to rewatch your replays and look for the strings that your opponents kept abusing. After you watch the replays, go into practice mode, look up what string it was, find out the answer to the strings. Sometimes a particular string might have multiple extensions, so see if your character has a universal answer to those extensions. Sometimes it could just be simply as duck the second hit of something, while other times the answer might be a little bit more complicated and complex. And coming in at number 1, the number 1 mistake in the red ranks is not using enough generic fast pokes. This one really hit home and explained to me why a lot of players are stuck in the red ranks or below and unable to get out of them. From the looks of it, the majority of players are just throwing out, for a lack of a better word, big attacks. Attacks like Brian's Snake Edge, Mach Punch, quarter circle forward 1+2, Noctis's while running 1+2, back 2, Paul's Trooper Roll, Nina's forward 3, the examples go on and on and on. Now, the majority of these attacks are good to use every now and then, and they do have a place in the game, except Snake Edge. Just stay away from that shit, guys. Now, like I was saying, big attacks have a place in Tekken, but it seems that the majority of players in the red ranks have forsaken generic pokes like jabs and down forward ones in favor of big stuff. And the main issue here is that, typically speaking, jabs and down forward 1 attacks are very fast, that are safe on block, and extremely hard to whiff punish in case they don't make contact with the opponent. The big attacks that you see players throw out over and over in the red ranks are either very unsafe on block, or they're extremely unsafe on whiff. And to be honest, many of you guys have gotten whiff punished hard or block punished really hard for using these attacks, and yet you guys continue to throw them out over and over and over as if they were pokes. If many of you guys just replaced half of the big attacks with things like jabs and down forward ones, you would get way more attacks in because the attacks are faster, and you would get counter hit less because the attacks are faster, and less likely to be whiff punished because, well, yet again, the attacks recover faster on whiff. So next time you guys want to throw out a big attack, consider using a more small and compact poke. So I hope this shed some light for you guys who are watching this and might be stuck in the red ranks and trying to figure out exactly how to climb out. And all these mistakes that I've listed in this video, they're compounded by the fact that I didn't mention that there's more mistakes. Yes, the earlier mistakes that you guys have been making, for instance, overly using wake-up attacks, for instance, like spring kicks or wake-up kicks. You guys are getting counter hit left and right for using these, yet you're still using them. Things like panic rage arts. You guys are getting punished hard for this. Mistakes that are in the teal ranks, at least I think should be in the teal ranks, you guys still are doing them. Other things are not block punishing still. Players are still just, they're blocking on -15 move and just not doing anything about it. Or players just whiffing big ass attacks and getting whiff punished by the opponent. The mistakes go on and on. What's another one? Oh yes, players not using their character's key moves. I've seen players tell me like, hey, I use all my character's key moves and I still can't win the game. I watch the games and there's a lot of key moves still not being used. So take into account those types of things in addition to these 5 mistakes that I've listed. Well, up next, top 5 mistakes made in the purple ranks. Hope to see you guys there. Thanks for watching, guys, and joining me on this video. Also, thank you so much, patrons, for your ever so gracious support. Without you, this would have not have been possible. And if you're new here and you like what you see, consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification icon. Below in the descriptions, as always, I also have my links to my Discord, Twitter, Twitch, and Patreon page. See ya next time.